Oh, yeah. How is everybody? So we have one person who wasn't originally going to be here today, but who is, right? No? Oh, no, you're here for orientation? Is that the deal? Oh, hi.
Oh, yes. He's going to be old next summer.
Oh, good. That's awesome. So how are you all?
Good.
Yeah?
Tired from the stairs.
Oh, you took the stairs? We kind of cheated.
Yeah, we took the elevator.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jordan is, she works with us, but she's setting up some things online. So while she does that, I'm going to pass out a folder for you all. My name is Lindsay. So if you got an email and filled out a survey, that was from me. If you didn't do that, then, well, sorry about your luck. I did the best I could when I picked your classes, but we can change that all today. It's no big deal. We'll go through some of these things here today. So there you go. Anyone need anything? I feel like you just like need to know where the restroom is, or we'll give you an opportunity for a break, but we just wanted that. Now, how are we doing online?
We've got one person on.
Oh, good. Okay.
So far, they
Who is
haven't-
it?
I don't know. I'm just gonna look right now to see if I can figure out.
We should have 4 people. George, did you see that there was an option to do it online? I don't know if you saw. Or we're glad you're here. We're really glad you're
I
here.
saw the option,
Yeah.
but it made it sound like it was a really disappointing option. It was like only $50 cheaper.
Oh, really? Okay, only $50. Yeah. Okay. I think there is something to be said about getting something in person, like an experience in person. You know.
2 people now.
So. I don't know.
We've got 2 people.
Oh,
Will you
good.
remind them to just write their name in here or here also something?
Oh, good. Yeah, the email said too, but it's, you never know. There's so many directions to follow and things like that.
Yes.
Do you guys want to, would you mind just starting before we kind of get started? And can we go around and just say your name and your major? Would that be okay? You've probably done that 49 times today.
Sure.
But we really care.
Yeah. You want to start?
Sure. My name's Haley, and I'm doing elementary education.
What's your name?
Haley. I changed mine this
I was going to say,
yesterday
so
morning.
best laid plans. No, Haley, we're glad you're here. Are you kidding? That's awesome. Well, what was your major before?
Psychology.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you may be in some classes that your psychology advisor registered you for. Some of those may completely be applicable. We might make some adjustments, but we're glad you're here. I'm going to give your UID in a second, but that's awesome. Hi.
Hello, my name is Melanie, and my major is physical education with a concentration in exercise science.
Awesome. And you have an AA, and you've done she's done almost all of her exercise science prerequisites. Wow, fantastic.
Thank you.
You're also fantastic.
My name's Tom. I am also a physical education major, and I'm looking to do the exercise science program.
Awesome.
My name is Dakota, social studies. Science.
I was gonna guess that, Dakota. I love your name.
That's a great.
Is it
All
after
4?
anything?
Yep.
The history of it comes back to my mom studied and worked at Mount Rushmore for a few years
Actually,
while she was pregnant with me.
Very good.
oh, that may have been me. Sorry.
Oh, that's really neat. That's a good story.
Yeah.
I remember, do you remember Deshay?
Yes.
So there was a student and her name's Deshay, and I asked her, is there a story behind your name? She said, no. And then I thought, well, that's interesting because I've never heard Deshay. I thought maybe it was like a maiden name or something. And then she goes, actually, yeah, there is a story. Like later on, she goes, I never even realized, like when people asked me that, and I was like, what? Her parents were each previously married and had children. And then they married and had her, and they took a letter or letters from all of the kids' names to put together to make Deshay.
Oh, that's pretty.
And I was like, then you must definitely have a story for where your name came from. Like the answer to that question is yes. But anyway, all right. Well, Dakota, cool story.
My name's Caitlin. My major is elementary education.
Awesome. So no Brio, obviously, unless she's invisible. Okay, awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. I'm Lindsay. I have emailed you just a couple of things. I work downstairs in student academic services with Jordan and Jeannie.
so I'm Jeannie McCarthy, and I work with Lindsay and all the other academic advisors in student academic services. So just to give you an idea of like, because there's so many places like on campus, we want you to consider the College of Education. So you're literally in the EDU building right now. You probably knew that, right? Downstairs on the first floor is our office, Student Academic Services. And we really want you to know that we are your hub, like your one-stop shop, I guess you'd say. Okay, because it's such a massive place at USF. And if we're not sure like how to answer your question, or maybe it has to do with financial aid, or maybe it has to do with housing, that's okay. We're going to get you to the right place. So rather than getting kind of overwhelmed, like some students can get overwhelmed or confused or wait in lines and then find out that that's not the right office, we really want you to know that Student Academic Services is here for you. We have the same office hours and open hours that the whole university does. So there's no reason to kind of have that build up. Make sure you visit with your academic advisor once a term, okay? So that's your home, away from home. Yeah. And today we're just going to talk to you about 3 quick things, but I think one of the things that students seem to be most interested in is just what Lindsay mentioned, your registration for spring term. And she already gave you a head start. But for some of you, if you need to change your schedule or you need to ask a question about one of the courses she placed on your schedule, you can do that as well. So no one's going to go home today without a schedule that meets their needs and helps you meet degree requirements and get you on track for graduation. So we start today, but we're always looking down at the end, and we know that your goal is to graduate, right, in a timely fashion. So we'll make sure that that happens today. But to get started, we want to talk a little bit about expectations. So just kind of getting to know a little bit about you and kind of what your thoughts are. Because I'm thinking that it probably, coming to USF, might have been a goal for some of you for a while. Is that true? Some of you thinking about USF for a little bit? Yeah, I mean, really? You guys are sitting at a Research 1 doctoral degree granting institution. And it's an institution that it's becoming more and more difficult to get admitted to. I mean, with the SAT and ACT score, the GPA they're expecting, the caliber of the candidates, we don't find people that just roll in and decided on a Monday they wanted to do it on a Tuesday. You filled out applications, you followed up with emails, you had to check things in your Oasis account, applying for financial. There's a lot of steps before you even got here. So it may not just be the stairs that made you tired, it may be all that other work that you had to do to sit in the seat. So it's kind of a good idea that we talk about. We have expectations, certainly from where we're at as a Research 1 institution and a college of ed that prides itself on developing highly qualified educators, but you all probably have expectations. And the more that those match, that's when you meet with success. So tell me what you're working here. What are you guys thinking about for your first semester or first year? Let's just go to first semester or first year at USF. What are you thinking is going to happen? Kind of what have you planned for and anticipate? It could be about anything.
A lot of papers,
A lot of papers? Okay. So you writing a lot of papers?
most likely.
Did anybody tell you that? Or, where'd you come up with?
I was talking to some of my buddies. They're about to, from high school. They're about to graduate this year from the College of Education.
Well, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they told you the papers are.
They told me that there's, at least the one who's also going for social studies, he said that there's a lot of papers throughout the years.
And lesson plans. And it's, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of research and writing and rewriting. Lindsay actually happens to be not only an assistant director, but also works as an editor. And so we talk a lot, and she shares with me, hi there, how many times somebody will have to rewrite a rough draft. So unlike maybe for some of you in high school, you might have been able to write the paper the night before, or like on your phone while you're walking into class. Okay. And maybe that still works occasionally, but more than anything, writing becomes a process, when you're at an institution like this. So it takes some time. The paper's due this week, then you might back that up a couple of weeks so that you can use the writing studio and get some feedback. So yeah, there might be a lot of papers. What else? It's good to be thinking about that. Skills you might, help you might need. Anything else? What about your grades? What are you anticipating for the first semester?
Good grades.
You want those? Yeah.
Good grades.
Okay. I mean, that's awesome. If you don't say it, I mean, don't they say this like in psychology? If you don't like imagine that, I want to earn A's, it may not happen, right?
Just putting yourself in that mindset.
Oh my gosh, totally. You just got a good thank you. Have you ever heard of growth mindset? How is that applicable? Could you tell us, Melanie, what is growth mindset? Just in your own words. And then I'm kind of curious actually to know how you might see growth mindset connecting with exercise science. Because
Well, it's kind of like the state of mind if you go in thinking that, like, for a test, for example, no matter how much you study, if you go in thinking that you're going to do bad, you're already setting yourself up for failure because your mind's not where it's supposed to be.
your mind and your body, does your breathing change?
I
And
mean,
your focus, right?
your focus is altered completely because you're already setting yourself up thinking that, you're going to fail, so what's the point? Like, when it's
Yep.
not true entirely if you spend hours studying.
Right. Oh, perfect. I mean, the reason we talk about expectations is we have students that sometimes expect perfection. I mean, a lot of students come to USF, they pretty much have experienced really good grades. Had to get in here. And then they want to continue on that path. They're not sure if they can do it. They don't know the resources that are out there. They're not always used to asking for help. Like you mentioned, studying. How many of you, the studying you do is by yourself? Okay, yeah, I would admit. Okay, so the majority, like, it's by myself. Like, I knock it out, right? And it pretty much goes pretty well. What do you do that's different?
Sometimes, like, if me and my friend are in the same class, we'll, like, do it together.
That model, if you haven't used that before, I think Lindsay's going to tell you, having worked with a lot of first-time in college students, you might want to open up your mindset to thinking that studying may look very different in college. If you go over to the library, it's not very far from here. You walk in, you see the Starbucks, you'll see this learning commons. And it's like 4, 5, 6 students sitting around a table talking, drinking their coffee with a computer. And they're studying. That kind of blew my mind because, like you, it was by yourself with a book, whatever book, however long you could like make it sitting in that space. But now in college, a lot of it is like with a peer or receiving tutoring services. So we're going to talk to you about all these resources that are here at USF. But you pointed out the mindset, the way you think about your ability to be successful, and what you'll accept in terms of the learning you'll have to do to be successful here are really going to make a difference. We've seen that in the students over the years, and you know it. Are you an athlete? Yeah. So you probably have that same sense of how important mindset is being successful in your sport. What do you play?
I did in high school, and not really now, but in high school I did cross country and dance.
I never got to that runner's high. I think I gave it up.
It's very real.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I'm probably saying I'm not going to get it. It's not going to happen. Although I think there might be something similar in cleaning your home. I definitely I'm half Italian. I definitely hit that space, right?
Clean yourself.
Space for
Never,
life.
if you're using bleach, it's a different story.
I know. God, this closet's going to go flying out leftover clothes.
My
Just
business.
clean my room and then you end up cleaning like
Terrible.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, organizing.
This place is, anyways, I can
That's
think
called
of
OCD.
We were just talking about that before you got here.
Yes, that is.
Oh my God.
I know. Another part of it. So we're going to think about, how our mindset impacts our success. And there's somebody actually that talks about this concept of growth mindset. And he's going to help you explore a little bit.
Do you guys know who this is?
I know that face. Couldn't tell you the name to save my life right now.
We had, when the students and their families were here before, a dad raised his hand and he was like, Usher. And his daughter was like, Dad, it's not Usher. But to be honest, like the statement or the question I'm about to ask you, I could ask you the same thing about Usher, and I think your answer would be the same response. So that's John Legend, right? And these are awards that he's holding. So my question is, do you think he's successful? I mean, that's a clue, right? That he's holding awards. So he's, I don't think he's one of the people who's won, what do they call it when you've won a Tony and an Oscar and all? I don't think he's won all of those, but he's won Grammys. Jeannie and I Googled John Legend Awards, and we were going to put a screenshot of them up here, right? But it was so many that it would be several screenshots. And it's not only for his industry, right, which is he's an entertainer, but also there have been organizations that have recognized him for his humanitarian efforts. So in terms of how we identify success, because that can be identified a lot of different ways, many different entities would say, yeah, this guy's a pretty successful guy, right? So he is going to talk about this concept of growth mindset as it relates to not only his profession and life, but also it's kind of relatable to our lives as students and really people.
The thing is, every successful person has failed at what they love to do. I've been unsuccessful in my career. You just didn't know about it because I wasn't famous yet, and I was trying to be famous. I was trying to get a record deal for 6 years, and I kept getting turned down. And any successful person even though it seems like everything just happened for them, it usually was preceded by a bunch of failure, or at least a significant amount. But the great ones aren't the ones that don't fail. They're the ones that learn from their failure and they keep going and they're persistent and they're tenacious. And for me, I was trying to get a record deal from 98 to 2004 and got turned down by every major record label, including the one I'm signed to now. And for me, that means that even when you hear no, you have to keep going through all those no's until you get to yes. And with learning something new, I think it's the same principle. When I was younger, I didn't really know that you could just get better at things. Because I think we're so used to the idea that you're talented at something and it's sort of fixed, the idea that, oh, he's just a good singer, and even with singing, I've gotten better at singing as I've gotten older. I wasn't singing in a way that was sustainable and I wasn't breathing right. I wasn't doing a bunch of things correctly. I realized that there was a ceiling that I couldn't crack through unless I actually studied and worked under a coach to get better. And this idea that things are just fixed is proven not to be the case. You can get better at things, you can grow. And even people that are innately talented still need to go beyond that basic talent that they have and cultivate it.
You all have a copy of this in your folder. So, when he talked about the idea of growth mindset, what initially I thought of was coach, right? Which for the exercise science students in the room, not to say that word doesn't resonate with others, but I'm guessing that word resonates with you, right? The idea of a coach. If I think of someone who's a professional athlete or an athlete, period, and that person has a coach, I think, well, that person's pretty smart, right? You're identifying someone who is skilled and able to help you improve in whatever you're trying to improve at, right? When John Legend, I asked you before if you thought he was successful, right? Well, you just heard he failed for like 6 years, right? Does that change your opinion of whether he's successful? When I heard that, what were you going to say, Dakota?
I was going to say, no, he's still successful.
Right. I actually thought I kind of had a little bit more, I don't know. I respected his grit and his resiliency to keep going because it's tough to do that when you get knocked down, right? So when he said he got a coach, I didn't think, wow, what kind of Grammy Award winning No, I thought, well, I bet everyone has a coach, right? All of those singers, entertainers, they have coaches, they have people who come and clean their homes. I mean, we were talking about the Kardashians. They can't even brush their own hair. Like, are you kidding? And no one necessarily looks at that and thinks poorly of it. But let's transfer that idea when you're trying to improve at something and you are trying to achieve A's or good grades. The idea of a coach in an academic setting could be your peers, could be our academic success center, could be a tutor, right? Sometimes we enter this environment of higher education, and like Jeannie said when we began, it is not easy to be accepted here, right? Every year, our president comes out and says, we have admitted the most accomplished freshman class of our institution's history. And she's not lying, or now it's he's not lying every year, because every year, the ACT, SAT, GPA, the scores are continuing to improve, right? So it's not easy to get in. So when you get here, how do you ensure that you maintain that same level of success And what does that look like? Do your expectations align with like reality, right? So this idea of a fixed versus a growth mindset isn't something that we just came up with, right? So there's this school, you may have heard of it, it's called Stanford. And, pretty reputable research comes out of there, not to say that it doesn't come out of here as well, because it does. And Carol Dweck is kind of the pioneer behind the idea of growth mindset. She started actually by looking in classroom settings in elementary schools of students who were not doing well on a math exam, a math test in like 3rd grade. They weren't doing well. And they allowed 1 grade on 1 test to dictate their feeling about their math ability. They would say either, I'm a math person or I'm not. Anyone ever said those words? For like my whole life, I always said I'm not a math person. And then I asked myself, well, who told you that? Who told you you're not a math person?
Me.
Who told you you were not a math? Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh my gosh, I was comparing myself to people who really loved math, who are really good at it, who maybe are having a career that's focused on that. But actually, although maybe it wasn't my favorite thing, when I had that as part of a degree or whatever, if I put in the effort, maybe that wasn't my best class, right? But I could do it. But I knew that if I said, you know what, I'm either good at it or I'm not, like those 3rd graders, they were living in that world. They said, look, that's just not for me. So Dr. Dweck said, actually, let's do a little experiment. And let's do something called, let's say introduce the power of the word yet. You haven't gotten it yet. So instead of giving like an F, she would give like a Y. You haven't done this yet. And she would give them an opportunity to retake it, right? Try it again. Then what happens? Then we start to live in this world, right? Like, hey, guess what? My effort that I'm putting into this, my attitude, you said that totally. If you go into a test and you've prepared and you still go in thinking, I'm going to do poorly. Well, actually, no, you're not. Because you just put all that work into it. But if you have that mindset, you actually might, because you're telling yourself that that's where your focus is. You started by saying that, right? So there's a lot of power in this. And what we found is that the students or the individuals who can really live in this world, because it's inevitable. We're going to hit challenges. We're going to hit failure, whatever we define that to be, right? That doesn't have to be an F per se. It can be something that's not all A's if we define anything less than that as failure, right? But if we say we can live in this world for a second, right? Because I'm not saying that if you get a poor grade, you're going to say, oh, well, challenges help me grow. Yay, right? I mean, that's not necessarily what happens. But if we say that sucked, but what did I do to prepare for this exam, let's say, I earned the grade I didn't want. And what can I do differently next time to make it such that my effort, my abilities can change with effort, right? With the time that we put into something. And that's what Carol Dweck found. And so not only that, expand from elementary school to the entire educational spectrum, into life, into athletics, right? When Jeannie was asking if you thought about growth mindset and how it relates to like athletes. If you think about, I think that's a really good example when you talk about when athletes get injured.
Oh, yeah. So I think he was in exercise science. What he wanted to look at when I advised for exercise science was, because I guess they had to do a paper or do some research, he wanted to look at pitchers that had like torn their rotator cuff, I think, and look at the psychology after that is healed. So physically, you should be able to throw that pitch. But psychologically, you put up like a wall to that. And we do, Lindsay said it, this is for whole life, whether it's about relationships, trying something new, taking an educated, informed risk, leadership, it's all there. And it's another sports one, but I was just listening to, like, if you watch the Buccaneers, so I was here when the Buccaneers became a team and they lost miserably, and not quite as bad as that now, but kind of like that. But it was kind of interesting because they took the same quarterbacks, Winston and Jameis Winston, but they said that in areas, the coach that they have, they call him the quarterback. So he's a coach, he's a teacher, right? And they said, and some coaches are like, they're yelling at some educators. Some people that are in a classroom that call themselves educators are like that. And there's others that very quietly, very skillfully empower and encourage. But they said that he never, after like there's an interception or there's a throw or a fumble, they said you will not hear him lay it out or pick out or put down his first string. He might do it to the second string or complain but never to the people when you have to go in the field. I just thought it was an interesting concept for even being as an educator. I did work with a math teacher that was outstanding at a very high need school. She took all the gifted kids, she took the average kids, whatever pathway they're in, the ones that needed remediation, put them all together. She was out in a miserable, filthy portable. That was her choice. Because she said, here's what I'll do. I want to go out there. I'll take them all with me. And they're going to come out different. And she was kind of newly educated in classroom management, what have you. She did a lot of research. She would burn incense. They would let her do whatever.
Like, you got the tough
I'll tell
class,
you
you can do
what.
whatever you want.
Those kids came up with their math, but she literally recreated what Lindsay was talking about in that research. Because if the student didn't get the problem right, she had the music going, the incense. Go back, do it again with your buddy, because you're going to go together. Isn't that crazy? Like, so there was no one opportunity and done. It was like a rewrite. So if you've never had to rewrite a paper, when I first got that back, it was a sense of failure.
Yeah.
Talk about rewriting. Really? You now have a D. Oh, wait a second. What was that about the rewriting? So I went from here to there. This motivates how much you're going to put forward, how long you're going to put that forward, how long you'll give yourself. That's 4 years, 3 years for somebody at US undergraduate.
It's interesting because since we started talking about growth mindset as part of our orientation sessions, I see it just permeates through the students, the power of the students who believe in this, because we are experiencing academic rigor here of a different caliber from what we're accustomed to. You have an AA degree, that is commendable, right? That's not studying here. It's kind of like anyone play a sport or an instrument. You run, right? Think about your very first day. Either you're like, I think I'm going to start running. My guess is you didn't run for as long as you did when you were finished, when you were trained, when you had learned how. So as you're going, you begin as a novice, right? But all those things you do along the way, taking accelerated credit, whether it's an entire AA or courses here and there, an AP exam here and there, all of those things are helping you to become successful in this environment, right? And along the way, if we don't experience challenge, well, that's where we really have a lot of growth, right? So when we experience things that are maybe less than ideal, remind yourself, okay, why am I here? What can I do differently to expect a different outcome, right?
And so over the years of working with students, we took a look at the students that were successful. And success could be defined as graduating, could be defined as just being retained, coming back the next semester and the year after. So just in small, getting through the first week, you might actually say, I cannot believe it. Remember the first day of school? And then you go home. And like, oh my God, I have to do this again. Like you feel so good and you can't even believe it. Yeah, I know. So the first week might be daunting, but the fact you come back and do it again makes you successful. These are kind of the 4 steps that they took, 4 things that these successful students in USF have in common. So we thought we'd just share with you their wisdom. First is knowing the rules. The second is seeking support. The third is getting engaged, being involved. And the fourth is monitoring and knowing how well you're doing, monitoring, checking your progress. So knowing the rules. We got lots of rules.
Oh, and you know what? Here, I'll show you some
And
growth
changes in
mindset. Changes in rules.
Yeah,
I need to update that. That should say 2.5. So apologies for that. I thought I changed that. Okay, so knowing the rules. You all are, you're accustomed to the idea that in a bureaucracy or organization or business of any kind, there are rules that dictate our behavior. And if we deviate from those, there's usually consequences, things like that, right? Like you probably knew in high school the classes where you maybe didn't have to turn your homework in on time because the teacher was a little bit more lenient, and you knew the ones where it was like, oh, are you kidding me? Like late work, that's not going to work, right? So you start to learn those rules. So if I gave you a list of all of the rules that are here, and you can access that. I'll show you how to. It's called the undergraduate catalog. It's available online. You don't want to print it because I think if you added up the number of prints you get every day, it might take you the whole year to print. It's very long, right? So not in substitution of that, but as a way to kind of address those and something that's more relevant to the world you're living in. in your folder, you have something called a survival guide. That's kind of a snapshot of some of the policies and procedures that students are most likely to kind of come in contact with, especially during your first couple of semesters here. So if you look at the front, there's some definitions there. There's a few policies down at the bottom, like that first day attendance. Anyone ever heard of the first day attendance policy? Dakota, what do you know about that?
From what I'm tracking, it's essentially if you don't show up to your first day of class, you're just going to assume, all right, you're pretty much dead. I'll fill
Okay,
that void
you are
somewhere else.
totally social science. If you don't show up, you're dead, whatever, see you later. Well, if you don't show up for class, the instructor has the opportunity or whatever to drop you from that course, like you were not registered for it, right? Now, what if you take an online course? You think that policy still stands?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So there have been situations where students have had, like, let's say 4 classes in a semester, and 3 are in person and 1's online. And so, it's not necessarily a bad idea to say, I'm going to go to my in-person classes, and on like Thursday, because I'll be done with all my classes, then I'm going to log on to Canvas, and I'm going to see what this online thing's all about.
Oh, that is so
And then you get on Canvas, and you're like, why do I have only 3 classes here? Oh, because online classes also have a first day attendance policy, but instead of showing up somewhere, because it's an online class, it's usually an activity, and it's usually very simple. A syllabus quiz, an introduction, a discussion board where you're saying why you took the class. Essentially, it's an action that the student takes in place of physically showing up to show that I intend to remain enrolled in this class, right? So you want to make sure that not only do you show up so that you can look at your syllabus, look at the syllabus for each class, make sure that it's something that works with your schedule, that you can manage throughout the semester, but also to maintain enrollment in those classes. And let me tell you, in some classes, especially some science classes that you all will have to take, there are people waiting in the back of the room hoping that someone doesn't show up, because guess what they want to do with that spot that you're going to lose if you don't show up? They want to take it, right? So attendance is important. I mean, we all know. You probably know there's a correlation between attending class and your final grades, right? But it's very important when it comes to maintaining enrollment in that class. So there's some other policies that are listed there as well. And this is not to say, yeah, figure it out on your own. The people who know this and that entire undergraduate catalog that I was talking about are all located downstairs in Student Academic Services. They're the academic advisors. And as soon as Jeannie and I finish, I'm gonna send them a text. I was texting Alyssa earlier and saying I need you to grab something for Haley when you come up. They're gonna come up and help you. So if you have questions at any time regarding this or anything, if you're just doing something and you have a question, chances are there's probably like a policy or a procedure that aligns with it. And you're welcome to navigate that undergraduate catalog. You absolutely can. But you can also come in with someone and we'll pull it up on the computer and we'll go through it with you, because that might make it a little bit, less anxiety provoking, less stressful for you if we can help with that at all, right? And Jeannie, like always mentions that, I think it's worth mentioning that our academic advisors were the only advising unit on campus where every single academic advisor has been a recipient of the Outstanding Academic Advisor Award. That's a university level award. So there's like outstanding undergraduate faculty and there's outstanding undergraduate advisors. So, and every time you see an advisor, you're going to have an opportunity to fill out a survey. Say, hey, how did this go? Did that person meet my needs? Was it a total disaster? Whatever. We have the highest rating across campus as well for that. So when we tell you to come in, we really do mean that we want to help you. We want to make it easier for you to navigate it because we know it can be tricky when you go into an environment that's new, right? So that's a snapshot of that. The next part of knowing the rules is knowing the GPA that's required of you. And you don't have to necessarily read that. I'll tell you the point of this. This is not your grades now. This is the this is the academic profile of the entering classes, right? So the average high school GPA of admitted freshmen is above a 4.0. I mean, that's I think, gosh, what was it? We had someone who had like a 10 point something. No friends, but no, I'm kidding.
That's my school.
Really?
Yeah,
What school did you go to?
I was at Flint City High School. One of our students had a 10.0
Wow.
the year before I graduated.
Oh my goodness, crossable.
She took
See,
almost
Jordan
every
has-
single online course she could, but she had like 0 friends.
Right?
But she had so many credit hours. She had the
Yeah,
whole
she
plan
did the
for
math
herself
on that.
planned out
Good for her.
12 years in advance.
Wow, I wonder what she's doing now.
I want to say she's going to college somewhere. I haven't been able to keep up with her.
Yeah,
That's for sure. I wish I had.
I want to say she's trying to become a doctor or something.
probably.
She'll get there,
But
I'm
do you
sure.
wish you had that, Jordan?
Oh,
Do you wish you
absolutely.
had no social
Well, not
aspect
that.
to your life?
I
What do you
wish
do
I
when
had
you're
the-
stressed? Who do you talk to? Or what do you do?
You
I
guys.
assumed you talk to people,
Me
right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I am overwhelmed or I'm frustrated or I hit those blocks, if I was isolated in an environment where I didn't have connections with people, I don't know that I would be able to overcome those, right? So yes, I'm not saying like, just take whatever classes. There is value. I mean, that's admirable to take all of those courses, to push yourself to reach those, I mean, 10.0, are you kidding me? I could multiply, I could do an exponent of mine and it wouldn't even get close to that, right? But gosh, what happens when it's part of life and your quality of life, yes, is doing well. That's the component, the core reason you're coming here is for the academic component here, right? But there is something to say about just your quality. When you jokingly said obsessive compulsive disorder, we were talking about that. The level of anxiety among college students is higher than it's ever been.
And you can only get a 4.0.
Yeah.
At any state, at any. So the expectation, you have students that come in and they have 4.5, 5.1, 10.0, what do they feel like when they come in and they get all these and they only get a 4.0? It's like your A in high school might be,
I was gonna say the playing field isn't quite
yeah,
the
it's
way
not,
it was.
Yeah.
exactly. That's what she's saying about the rules. So the expectation, the rules, when all those things shift, your mind has to adjust to those. And even for families, if they're used to seeing you get A's and B's, and in a general chemistry course or an introduction to chem, you get a C plus, but you really learned quite a bit and that pushed you. Is that still valuable? So these are the things that, we were talking a little bit with one of our other groups last year about the fact that some of our students, they're here the first semester, take the right classes, they see it, and believe it or not, they don't come back the next semester. Not just USF, but any institution of higher ed. So that was a real problem. Why are these students not coming back? So we thought it was students who weren't doing well. D's and F's, right? Right, John? Here, the
Yeah,
GPA was of these students. 80% of the students that didn't come back for their second year, their GPA was between a 3.0 and a 4.0. That was counterintuitive. I never would have thought that. I would have thought the reason they didn't come back, they were really trying, they weren't doing well. No, they were doing well enough to get scholarships. But their mindset, like what Melanie said, who knows if they're overwhelmed, they're feeling stressed out, they're feeling like they failed. That might keep them from coming back even with the good grades, right? So that's why I don't know if any other college talks as much about it, but we certainly do.
Well, like you said, Dakota, it's a completely different environment, right? So not only do we not have anything that's weighted, right? An A in Calc 3 counts the same as an A in finite mathematics, right? In terms of the calculation for your GPA. And the effort that you put in to earning an A in high school, you might double that effort and maybe not have an A, right? It could be very different because it's a very different environment. But if our expectations are that, I've always been able to write my paper as I walk into class, or I've always been able to just study 30 minutes before I go in, and our environment doesn't meet those expectations, that's what Jeannie's talking about. Those students who don't come back, have a 3.0 or 4.0, they're not, it is their decision to not come back. Sometimes it's not their decision, right? But that's what we were thinking. Every student who wasn't returning, it was because they were dismissed academically because they weren't able to achieve, a 2.0 or something like that. So that's where all of our energy and effort went, which of course we do want to support students on that end of the spectrum, right? But we also recognize that there's something about your mindset, your mentality going into it that has a lot to do with it. So most of our students, I would say, don't have extreme struggles with grades. But if you do and you your advisor can talk to you about academic support services here. It could be related to the actual content of the course, in which if you've never studied with other people, you might want to investigate that option. Take advantage of our tutoring center. They measure everything, right? In higher education, you're going to get a survey for everything you do, right? So what do you think the GPA, and we'll talk about support services later, but what do you think the GPA of students who go to our tutoring center is? Like average GPA?
5 or higher.
Yeah, it's like a 3.6. So at first students were like, oh gosh, I don't know, 0.2. Those students aren't trying to get better, right? It's the ones who are like, hey, I know that, I don't know that I can really do it on my own, or maybe I just want that extra push to be able to get the grades that I want to get, right? So in order to do that, I probably have to study in a way that's a little bit different from what I've done before. And well, my tuition's paying for me to get these tutors over there in the Academic Success Center. So
They're the
why not go over there?
Kardashians. They're the Kardashians.
Yeah, exactly. That's your
They're making it.
glam squad over there, whatever
That's
it's
right.
called.
You have to see it like that.
Yeah, I know, right? So grades are important. We can help you identify resources if you encounter a situation where you're like, oh, wow, I think I could use some additional help. Another part of knowing the rules is knowing what classes to take. So does anyone know what that 120 signifies?
120 credit hours.
120 credit hours get you what?
Degree.
A bachelor's degree, right? But not just any 120 credit hours, right? You can't just take 120 credit hours in whatever you want and then say, yeah, here's my degree, here it is. Well, you took 45 credits in aerobics, so that's not really going to do much for you. We do have, aerobics and all those kinds of classes, which are pretty neat. But so there are specific courses. Anyone in here ever go online and go to like your program of study? There's they call it like a semester plan online.
It's like the
8 semester. Yes, absolutely. So that's a great resource. It's kind of like all of us could go on there and look, and it would give us a general idea of what we can expect in terms of courses. But we already know that we're coming in with different levels of academic credit we've already earned, right? Some of us have earned 10 credits, some have earned 0, some have earned, 60, whatever it might be, right? So that's a really kind of overall plan to get to the 120. So I'm going to break it down into categories, but then the overarching thing as I go through this, I want you to remember every single time you meet with an academic advisor, that person is going to go through the specific area that you're working on at that point in your academic progression to make sure you know what you're taking, why you're taking it, what course, what category that course fulfills, and all of that stuff, right? Anyone ever had a situation where you take a course, finish it, and someone says to you, you didn't need that course, why'd you take that course? Oh, we unfortunately hear that. A lot of times, maybe at transfer orientations, if you go to maybe you're going back and forth from major, whatever it might be, right? Well, and when it happens at higher education, not only did you have that energy and the effort that you put into it, but you also had some financial component there too, right? So our goal is for that never to happen to you. So come see your advisor. Why not? We already told you that they're great, So there's a category of courses called enhanced general education. And I don't care if you're sitting here, if you were still over in arts and sciences with psychology, if you guys know anyone who maybe wants to be an engineer or a physician, right? Like your friend with the 10.0. Enhanced general education courses are required for every student, right? Regardless of major. If you come in as a first year student, you have to take these. If you've done accelerated options in terms of like AP, IB, dual enrollment, ACE, those things, a lot of those are encompassed in this. This would be like your comp classes, math classes, psychology, things like that, right? So regardless of your choice of major, everyone takes these. Then it starts to get a little bit more specific. So we have checklists here that vary from major to major. So if you say that you want to teach elementary education, you'll have a course that's required of you called Introduction to the Teaching Profession, right? Dakota wants to teach social science. He's going to have some additional history, government that you don't have, right? But doesn't that kind of make sense? That's what he wants to teach. You all, as exercise science majors, will have anatomy and physiology, chemistry, courses that are going to be indicative of not only like your profession, but classes you can expect to encounter as you progress through your degree. So it kind of gives you an opportunity to say, hey, do I actually like this stuff? Am I actually like competent in this, right? To give you an idea, to solidify, our hope is that it helps you solidify your choice of major, right? So all of you, and the people online have this online, like I emailed it to them. That made me feel like we're in some sort of fancy
know.
thing.
Yeah, that was
don't
good.
know,
I
right?
know, like, wow.
But well, except for Haley. But you'll have one, Haley. But everyone else, I filled this out for you already. So we'll go through this, but I'll give it to you. And if it doesn't make any sense, it's probably my handwriting, but I will do my best to negotiate that. But basically, I went through the academic record that we have for you at this point. There could be classes, maybe if anyone took classes this fall semester somewhere or something like that, maybe we don't have an AP score or something like that, where that's not completely accurate because of that missing information, but we'll get that figured out. That's what your advisors are here for. On that, you'll see that there are different boxes that align with certain categories. If there's a check mark in it, it means that we have record that you have completed that requirement, that you've earned it. If there's an S, or sometimes I got crazy and put an SP, I don't know, that means I've registered you for that class for spring, right? So what happens once Jeannie and I are finished is the advisors are gonna come up and we're gonna sit one-on-one with you to help you navigate that. Right? Because if you're looking at it like, what are these colors? I don't understand these boxes. What's this whole thing? We're going to help you
I feel the
go
same
through that.
way, and I work here.
Right? So that's another category of courses that gets us to that 120, right? So now we're starting to get a little bit more specific. The final category is essentially what you're going to take in your final 2 years here. So that's where it is your major courses. So you'll have a mix, everyone in here, of content courses where you're talking about certain subject areas, right? Part and full-time internships, and everyone's final semester is comprised of a full-time final internship, right? Most people probably know that, right? Especially those who want to go into the teaching profession. Did those of you who are interested in exercise science, did you know you had an internship that's a component of your program? Yeah.
I had an understanding that was probably going to be part of it. Yeah.
That's, what's interesting is there was I don't even remember when it was, a couple years ago, there was kind of a push by the provost of really higher education nationally to say, you know what, every undergraduate student should graduate with an internship experience in his or her field. And colleges of education are like, yeah, we know, we've been doing it, right? Because just like running or just like playing an instrument or just like being a student, the more time we spend doing it, the better that we become at it, right? As long as we're continuously trying to improve our practice of that. So you all, what do you think you want to do, Melanie, when you graduate?
I want to be, after I graduate and get my bachelor's, I want to apply for PA school, be a sports medicine PA.
Okay, and what about you, Tom? What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm not quite sure.
That's okay. That's a
It
perfectly
changes
fine
all the
answer.
time. But I was thinking potentially sports medicine PA as well, or athletic training.
Okay, fantastic. What's neat is your faculty members kind of have a variety of specialties, so you'll get some exposure to different kind of areas of exercise science. So your final internship, it's not going to be in a classroom setting, right? It can be in a clinic on campus. It could be at a hospital rehab center. It could be with a university level or professional level athletics. All of those things can happen.
So for internship hours, does it just have to be like clinical hours, or does it have to be directed towards what you want to do?
Well, your faculty members will have identified internship sites. And so that you go through a process with them because it's 4-credit internship, right? So it's not just like I could come up and say, yeah, I really want someone to like be my personal trainer. Can that be an intern? They'd be like, yeah, that's okay. Although you do a part-time internship with something called the FIT program, where you work as a trainer with faculty and staff of the College of Education, which is pretty cool. But so it's all vetted through, and I believe that the faculty make their best attempt, as with our educator preparation programs, to align your internship experience with what it is that you want to actually pursue, right? So if you know your elementary ed and you really like those primary grades and that's your preference, then that's where the effort goes to make sure that your final internship is placed in a first grade
The
classroom
reason
or
I asked
something
is
like
I
that.
work at a hospital, so I didn't know if I could use those clinical hours.
Oh, do you really? Oh, wow. Close to here?
I live in Tarpon Springs. I work at me studying hospital ER.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So all of those things that you're doing are helping to inform your correct choice of major, right? And make it so you're better when you graduate. You have a variety of knowledge. And so when you meet with your advisor along the way to get to those 120 credit hours, not only is the advisor going to fill out this or whatever component that aligns with your progression, and give it to you so that you have a record of it. Before you leave, that advisor is going to scan it. So if you leave and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with that? Or gosh, I really understand that. And you want to contact your advisor afterward, we can always get that for you. It's always accessible, right? So when I ask you, have you ever been told, oh, why did you take that class? Why you didn't need that class? No, we make sure that we're very diligent because we understand that there's a lot riding on the classes that you take and your energy and effort to go into that, right? The final component of knowing the rules is for those students interested in pursuing teacher certification, which if you're pursuing a degree with us leading to become an educator, you have to be certified to teach, right? You have to take something called the general knowledge test. Have you heard of that? What have you heard of, Dakota?
Just heard from Troy and David. Just
Troy? Troy's your friend?
Troy Currency?
We all know Troy. He comes in to see Adrian like all the time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
David
so
Lamoureux.
funny.
Yeah.
Wait, and who?
David Lamoureux,
What-
curly hair, Troy's
Oh,
best friend.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
For a
so-
second, I didn't know if it was David who's math ed,
I know,
but
right?
I was like, holy moly, Dakota. This is
Is he the
this
one
is like a
that
trio of.
Troy was the one that laughed and was like, "Bye, Adrian, you're the best." Or
Yeah,
something
I
like
think he
that.
said he was going to
Yeah.
name his future
Yeah,
child after
I-
Adrian, his advisor.
His advisor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Troy.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? So he told you about it. What did he tell
told me
you?
a little bit about it. Just really just what it says, general knowledge. That's the test. Okay. Are you up to the par that we need for basic teaching?
hmm So sometimes when we hear that word general, what happens is we make that synonymous with easy. Melanie, did you take general chemistry?
Yes.
Was it easy?
I took, in my defense, I took.
None of us here took it, so.
Yeah, I didn't take
In
it.
high school, I took chem honors, which was basically a duplicate class of introduction to chemistry. But when I first took chem honors in high school, no, it wasn't easy. A lot of the
No.
concepts were kind of difficult to grasp.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So the general knowledge test isn't going to be testing, high level chemistry or chemistry at all, or, Calc 3, but it's things that depending on where you went to school and the track that you were on with your courses, you could have encountered some of the stuff in 6th grade, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, anywhere in that, right? So general essentially means broad. And Jordan she is going to be one of your best friends because not only does she work with scholarships, which we'll talk about later, but she helps inform you and coordinate all of our preparation resources for the general knowledge test. So what happens is you have to pay $130 to take this exam. And regardless, if you want to teach elementary school or you want to teach the secondary level, everyone takes a general knowledge test, right? And so you have to pay $130 to take this exam, right? And so some students would hear that word general, think easy, and then would go into it and would realize, wow, this isn't like the most difficult thing, but have you ever encountered a topic and you haven't like done it in a while? And like later it clicks and you're like, oh yes, I know what that is. I was talking to Deanna, who's our math advisor, and we took the GKT on the same day. And I said, you know that thing with like the exponent, and if it's negative, you move the decimal point this way. And if it's, and she goes, scientific notation. And I was like, I haven't done that in 20, I don't know. Like you taught math for 7 years, give you a little credit here. But it's things like that maybe aren't the most difficult or rigorous concepts we ever encountered. But we certainly don't want to pay money to then remind ourselves afterward, oh, that's all it was? Oh my gosh. So when Jordan sends you an email about prep resources that we don't charge our students for, come to them, right? Take advantage of those because we track the students who do and they pass at much higher rates when compared to students who just go in blindly and say, oh, general, I got this, right? Again, like if you have a resource that's available for you to help improve your probability of achieving success, why not take advantage of it, So there are some practice questions, but this flyer tells you, you'll see it many times or different versions of it, of all the resources that we have. There's an online learning community where you can get practice questions, practice tests. We'll link you to free resources so that you don't go into that like blind. You go into it feeling prepared so that you're like, hey, I prepared for this and I have the mindset that I'm going to do well. I believe that I am, and then you're going to pass with flying colors, right? That's knowing the rules.
So the second step of successful, I know a lot. Oh, yeah, rules have rules. Is just seeking support. And let's see, kind of three types of support. Personal and social support are important for students, academic support and resources, and financial support, because it is a costly venture to go to college. So if we kind of look at some of those, your personal and social support. So there's a lot of research and literature about students who transition to this environment we call college, and they find that they are unknown, which can be kind of cool, you know, because depending on what your high school experience is like, you can reinvent yourself. On the other side, depending on what your high school experience, you have to reinvent yourself, you know, it can be a little bit, it could go either way. So for some students, anybody go to a rather small school, what you would consider small high school? Really? Oh, wow. So Tom, what size would you say? How many in your graduating class?
My graduating class was
Yeah.
like 273.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
And like the total school was like 1,300, I think.
Very good. I think that's like a fairly good size, but the 2 something is right 1,000. Let's see what you could have. What you have?
The initial high school I went to freshman year, I know the school size was 250. The graduating class, I think, was 20 something.
Yeah.
I could have chosen in the top 10%. See, this is what I needed. Okay. Yeah, that's a little different than USF. Where'd you ever get this?
I went to 2 different high schools because the one I was at was getting overcrowded, so they built a new one.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
then I was located there, and we didn't have a senior class the first year, so it was just juniors,
Yeah.
and I was a junior.
Yeah.
So then our class was very small, and it was only probably like 220 like seniors, and then it was also middle high school, so the population was still big, but
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so you kind of had to forge a new
I was basically
identity.
a senior twice.
There you go. Well, that's
Yeah,
not
that's
bad.
interesting.
Not
Yeah.
Did you get to have senior skip days twice? So the concept here is just that like you are going to need to retain the personal and social support that you have currently, but also build some of that in. So if there's somebody that you're going to go home to today and talk to about today, are you thinking about sharing this experience with anyone? Talking to them about what you learned? Kind of helps you remember, right? And express like what you're worried about, what you're concerned about. Those same people, you need them around at the end of the semester and then some. Because as Lindsay explained, you're gonna be challenged. And some of you even might feel like you've met with what you consider failure. And so you're going to need support, both personally and socially here. There's so many organizations, Lindsay knows all about that. Lindsay supports the organizations here at USF in the College of Ed. And then beyond that, are there over 300?
Over 600,
Oh,
I
dear
think
God.
now. I
Actually,
know.
that one, over 600 student organizations. So they're not only, if you're not ready for like a leadership role, then that's okay. You don't have to start there. But you can start by getting involved and meeting new friends and peers. The College of Ed has so many, we're gonna have a week of welcome. You'll be invited to that. So your first event can be the first week of classes where you stop by and get a little refreshments, meet some of the advisors, kind of just chill for a minute and talk shop with the people that are doing the same thing you're doing. They're students here at USF, and that will be a sense of support for you. We will reach out and grab you. We may even visit your classroom. We've been known to knock on doors and go, "We got any College of Ed students in here?" And everyone's like, until we show the bag of Oreos. Oh yeah, no, you're not. Sit down, you science major. We like them to. I know what people would do for a bag of cookies. We want you to know that we are your home. You're part of our community, and we're here to support you. Your academic support, Lindsay talked about a few of them, but you have tutoring in the library, the Academic Success Center. You've got a writing studio where people line up like you think they're getting tickets for the next concert. You're actually waiting to be seen by someone so they can share the paper and get some notes back. You've got Smart Math for math. Okay. If you don't use any of those resources, those aren't your thing, it's the one-on-one thing. Your advisors can even sometimes help you get you set up with a peer in your class, another first-time in college student, or maybe somebody that's a junior or senior to mentor you. They can hook you up, So we do it a little bit more in a personal way. You're sitting with an academic advisor. They can say, "Oh, so look at how Lindsay knew your best friends, knew your peeps." Okay,
Yep, that was.
we're like right on it. So you don't even have to do a LinkedIn thing. You just kind of come in and start. We actually know the people that need some support. So we can help you with academic resources, financial support. That's again, Jordan. This girl loves to spend money.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when it's not her money. So part of her job is like to spend the college's money in scholarships and aid to students who are doing well, students who need it. There are scholarships for grades, there's scholarship for special category that you might be in, you have a special talent. There's scholarships for education abroad. You want to go to Europe? You never thought you could get there? Cambridge, Costa Rica, we have trips there, and there's money for it. So all you got to do is meet with your academic advisor, meet with Jordan, say, I'm thinking about this, I don't know the fund. And she can say, there's not only volunteer, but there's actually tutorable. Some of our students get paid to tutor. I know Lindsay used to know that. I don't know if it's 13 an hour, 12 an hour.
I think it's $12.50 an hour.
12.50. That's not a bad gig. Where you're getting experience comfortably with school setting, one-on-one, small group, or what have you, and you're actually tutoring students in need and getting paid for it. So you get that kind of thing. So if financial support is what you need, please don't just fade away. You know, we know that there's a cost to college, and we're just saying hook up with your student academic services and Jordan, our scholarship administrator, and we'll try to see if we can support you with those needs.
Okay, so getting involved or getting engaged with something here, right? So we just said there's more than like 600 organizations here. What do you think? True or false? Students who don't work have higher GPAs than their peers with part-time jobs.
False.
False. Okay, why do you say false?
Well, I'm working part-time. I know my buddy Troy and David also work
Oh,
part-time.
Troy, yeah.
And what they told me at least, and I might be bluffing, they're apparently going to graduate rather well
Yes.
this year.
Yeah. And you think that students who work have higher GPAs too, right?
Because that I feel like it just shows how determined they are.
Man,
So you're right. Now there's a tipping point to that, right? So it's between like 15 to 20 hours. Typically, if we exceed that, then we have too many things competing for our attention, right? But it helps us to organize our time. Time management is so key to doing well, right? So if you know these are your work hours, then you know these are your class times, and then you have to calculate when you're going to study. A lot of times when we work, we have to kind of do that in advance. So it forces kind of a sense of responsibility on us, right? What about the second one? Student involvement is negatively correlated with success in college. So as one goes up, the other goes down. So if you're involved, you're not doing well. If you're not involved, you're doing well.
Cool.
Except for this outlier here, the 10.0, whatever.
So the other thing I can say is that I think it's more like a parabola, but there's a certain point where, where your
Yes.
involvement will correlate with success, but too much involvement
Absolutely.
negatively impact your success.
Absolutely. So don't join 600 organizations, right? But find something that complements your academic work, right? So that you can then surround yourself with people who become your support system here on campus to augment what you have at home and everything that already exists, right? So we have several College of Education related involvement opportunities when you come to our Week of Welcome events or you meet with your academic advisor, you can learn about that. So if you want to get involved in an organization that is related to your academic major, fantastic, we can help you with that. And like Jeannie said, if you want to take a leadership role with that, that's awesome. If you think you would prefer just kind of a membership route, that's great too. You can get a lot out of that. So we'll help you learn ways to get involved.
Tracking your progress. The least familiar person talking about this stuff, but I know it happens. It's all this technology. But so there's no lack of information out there ready and available at your fingertips. As a student today in 2019 going into 2020, such that you have to be unaware. I have no idea. How'd you do on the test? I don't really know. We don't get our grades in there. Yet you'll still hear students say that. Well, how do you think you do? I'm not sure. He doesn't say, I guess it's okay. Yeah, everything is electronic. So whether it's through your DegreeWorks audit, which Lindsay and the advisors will show you, some of you have probably already seen it, which is literally like an electronic map of you're here. Here's how you get to graduation. That's one way to see what your progress is, what you've completed, what you still have remaining. Oasis, I guess when I think about Oasis, that's kind of a place for you to feel good. I suppose you could feel good about going into Oasis and seeing that it's your time to register, We're seeing that maybe you've been awarded financial aid, something of that sort. That's another way for you to get information. Canvas, all of your courses are hooked up to this like online virtual space called Canvas. You can email your peers in the class. You might have like discussions you have to post in there. You might have study groups that are set up. You can contact your professor through there. You can see your grades on every single assignment in there. Your professors, they're not a piece of technology, but they are definitely collateral that you need to access in order to know how you're doing. I know you probably wouldn't dream of speaking to an instructor, but believe it or not, they're teaching in that field because like that's their wheelhouse. That's their expertise. And I assure you that because they're at USF, student success is also at the forefront of what they're doing. So they can literally, the president provost, right? They can run reports, and they do. And they can find out, you teach this class at this time of day to this group of students. Well, we can see in an L-shaped curve how many are getting A's, B's. So they got some skin in the game, you know. And every one of your professors on your syllabus has office hours, have to. So if you need to check up with a professor about what you didn't understand on a test, we have one student that works in our office. And look at me, if he's got a question, he's meeting with that instructor, you know, because he's a paying customer, you know, and we perceive you to be that way, your students, but you're also consumers. So you can certainly schedule. I'm not saying you walk right into a professor's office and demand to know what the answer to 3B was, but you might go in and say, this is how I prepared. These are the materials I used. I didn't feel like I knew it was. Can you help me? You get what I'm saying? And we can even, your advisors, here's how good they are. I work right across from Lindsay, and I often hear her speaking to students and helping coach them in how to address a question with a faculty member. Because there is kind of a way to that, you know what I mean? Right? There's a way to approach.
I was thinking that earlier. I was like, how would I
Anyway,
talk
how would
to
you?
my professor
Right.
if I needed to?
Honestly, I'm telling you, I really mean it. Academic advisors, they know the very faculty members you're going to speak with. They know kind of what motivates them. They know what their pressure points are. They can actually help you role play that if need be. And how you approach someone, you know, has a lot to do with how they respond to you. So if you weren't sure how to approach it, they could actually help give you.
We were talking about that
Yeah,
yesterday because
really?
I answered the phone yesterday afternoon and I said immediately, the person knew before
And you
anyone
said,
answered, I'm in this, I'm battling,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know who you are. And we got off the phone. Thank you so much, because I knew regardless of that, right, that I was like, well, first of all, my boss probably doesn't want to hear me to go back to like, really, you want to talk to me? Like, no, because I wouldn't do that, right? But had I been a different person, or had this been a different setting,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
not work related, I could have said, oh, you want to come at me like that, right? Which is terrible. But think about how we approach something, right?
That's the
And someone's willing.
Yeah, exactly.
I brought it up to Jordan because she used to work in
Like,
customer service at
breaking up, you're
AT&T.
breaking up.
Yeah, I can't hear you. What's happening? No. But I mean, you know, if you want a favor, you're not going to go in and demand. You know?
Yeah. I know, when I have my arms like this. Stop demanding them.
I know.
But you have the right and a responsibility to advocate for yourself, so we can help you with that, should you find the need. And emails, you gotta check your email every single day, believe it or not, your USF email. I know it's kind of old school, it's not so much social media, but that's like the official pathway for communication. So there's nothing worse than walking in your classroom, looking around like, whoa, like, where's everybody? When did you show up? And you realize class is canceled. You know, for a minute you think they're all stupid, and it's on your email. Because that's time that you could use for some other course or for something social or whatever. So make sure you check your email. So if you follow these simple steps, knowing the rules, connecting with advisors about the rules, seeking support and keeping the support you have currently, getting engaged and involved, and checking on your progress. And we should probably have under or over all of it, the mindset that you are going to be successful here. We're going to help you be successful. I think you're going to do just fine. Lindsay is going to probably contact the advisors if she hasn't already, so they can come up and meet with you and go over your schedules. I don't know if you'd like to take a quick break to get something to drink or to use the restroom, because the last portion is just registering or accepting the registration that's already been done for you, paying the $20 money order to Lindsay for the work she did on that.
Cash is fine, Venmo, whatever you need. I'm kidding.
Right?
Dakota, it's a
Just
joke.
kidding.
I zoned out there for half a second. I was talking about Venmo and cash.
I know. To go to the Sky Can, I felt really bad. Well, I know. At the end of the day, it was like, fun, we're fun.
Oh, yeah.
But we hadn't locked the door yet. So he was all sweaty, right? Because he knew, like, oh my God. And he was like, yeah, the door's open and I'm running. And he was dropping his up. I'm like, did you trash the money? What do you mean? Oh, she was like literally quivering. I had to go give him a hug. He's like, I'm all sweaty. I'm so sorry.
He literally is
He was
panicked.
like, holy crap, you know, just another hoop. Because you could.
Oh, I know, right? Oh my gosh. Anyone want to go to the restroom? It's if you go out those doors and you head here. I was just at Disney, and you head to your left. Don't think not pointing at these two fingers. And you go to the left. It's almost at the end of the hallway on your right hand side.
Bye, onliners.
Are we done on that?
Yeah, right. Well, could
Bye from me.
can I just say something to them real
Absolutely.
quickly?
Do you want to,
Okay,
here, I'm going to turn it towards you.
Okay.
There you
Hi.
go.
So one person removed your hold today. Thank you for doing that. One person still has a hold. So you're not registered for any classes. The other 3 are registered. If you are the individual who removed your parking, sorry for putting it out there, hold today, you are not in a Comp 1 class. You don't have to take Comp 1 this semester, but I thought you might want to, but you don't have to. But the only section remaining before I came up here was at 8 a.m. on Friday morning, and I wanted you to like me, so I didn't put you in that class. Now, you might be fine with that, so go ahead and do it. But for anyone else, review your class schedule. If you have any questions or you want to make any changes, feel free. And if you want me to review that, just send me an email, and I'll be happy to do that. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, are we all registered for full time?
No, you're not. She is. We can go ahead and turn on our computer.